So how do you create a brand that truly represents who you are and the products you sell, as well as building a business that you can scale online? That is what this podcast will help you do. My name is Henry Kaminsky Jr., and welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast.
Let me just make this statement loud and clear. Jersey's here, Jersey's here.
What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast. I am your host, Henry Kaminsky Jr., the Brand Doctor from uniquedesigns.net. And today's guest, what an amazing individual, man. We go back a long time. We're talking 14, 15 years ago when I was back in my clubber days designing nightclub flyers for all those crazy promoters out there. And I actually met Nick in that space. He was quite the promoter. He was always at that luxury level. You know, there was all these promoters, you know, doing everything else, and then there was Nick up there just rocking with the rock stars and the elite. You know, when you went to Nick's parties, you knew you were going to rub shoulders with somebody special. And it's so crazy, you know, fast forward 14 years, we bump into each other in the most randomest places. I was in LA at an event a couple months ago, and LAX, it's a giant airport. I get off the plane, I'm walking down the hallway, and who do I see? My man Nick Andriatola, aka Nick Champagne. And I'm like, how the hell do we keep bumping into each other? And then we also met at one of Gerard Adams' events. He did a nice dinner party in the city one night, and I walk in and I'm like, it's freaking Nick. So it's just crazy. I don't believe in coincidences. So I was like, the more and more we keep bumping into each other, I said, you got to come on my show, man. You have such a great story. And man, 2020 was quite the year for many, many reasons. And I wanted you to come on the show because, just like I mentioned on the pre-promotion, is, you know, you're an entrepreneur in the hospitality space, and COVID came in and just rocked the hospitality space's world. And you persevered. I mean, you survived. You didn't lay down, and you kept going, and you looked for opportunities. And I just wanted to dive into that with you because I know there's a lot of people out there that own businesses, maybe in the same space, maybe in other spaces, and they may be feeling that, well, maybe I should just throw in the towel. Maybe this isn't meant to be, so on and so forth. Maybe I need to pivot, the big P word. And so I wanted you on to really help these folks get that clear mind and get focused and get going. But before we get started, I wanted to have you do a quick little bio of who you are and how you got to where you're at today.
So, yeah, thanks, Henry. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the kind words. It's amazing to bump into you in all these places. I actually forgot about LAX until you just said that. But, you know, Gerard's dinner was great, and it was nice to see you after so long, and we reconnected. So, who am I? I'm Nick Champagne. You know, I have a background in hospitality for the past 20 plus years in every aspect of hospitality. You mentioned promotions and nightclubs. That was, wow, it was a really long time ago, and it was amazing. Different time in New York City, different time in the world. And I evolved that business into a marketing and events company, then a branding company dealing with luxury brands, then a concierge company, which is still part of my world, still part of my life. And, you know, most recently, let's say the past 5 years, right? My core business was creating experiences, creating trips, travel, access, etc., for high net worth and ultra high net worth, mostly ultra high net worth individuals all over the world. Think about events like the Super Bowl, think about Monaco Grand Prix, think about Paris Fashion Week, award season in LA, et cetera, et cetera. Think about the dream vacation, which is, you know, a dream for many people, but it's commonplace for my members and clients, right? Every summer holiday, every winter in, you know, St. Bart's or Aspen or wherever the destination may be, we would create experiences from A to Z. And, you know, being in hospitality and travel, as you may imagine, 2020 was tough. So we adjusted quickly. I adjusted quickly. and pivoted. In March or April of last year, I knew it was going to be a tough year. I didn't know how bad it would be. We ended up having, one of, if not the worst years financially in that business that I've ever had. And it's all mindset. It's really all mindset. So, that's a brief intro. I can go deeper into that based on the way you want to take the conversation, but I'll say that for now.
Yeah, I think this is a great leadway into mindset and how you were able to leverage mindset to get you where you're at today and what you're working on today, and how you've basically taken a huge setback, spun it on its head, and created some massive opportunity out of it. So I want to get into that right after this quick little message. If you're a business owner who feels your branding isn't truly representing the value that you deliver, check out this free video training that will help you level up your brand's messaging and online presence so that you can start attracting higher quality clients. Visit www.uniquedesigns with a Z at the end, not an S, .net/level up my branding. Okay, so it's March, April of 2020, and you start seeing shit really hit the fan, and you take a deep breath, and you're going to yourself, well, where do we go from here, right? So bring us that emotion. Bring us what was going through your head at that point.
So I'm going to take it a step back further beyond that. Years prior to that, I had been doing a lot of personal development work, and with people like Tony Robbins, I joined his Platinum Partnership, traveled the world with Tony, with others, other like-minded individuals, and really, learned from his principles. And it's not just Tony Robbins, it's other thought leaders, it's other authors, it's other high achievers that I aligned with, right? From books I was reading and so on and so on. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think that was critical in my mindset dealing with 2020 and getting to where we are now. So now to circle back with what you said, it's, let's say Q1, even now, this time last year, January, February 2020, and I'm raising money for a new company. I have advisors, I have investors ready, I have my clients and my members, and we're raising money for an extension of what I was doing already. So an experiential company, a high-end travel company, more community-based with a fund component, right? And the reason for that was in my personal development training, and especially with Tony Robbins, he would say, winter's coming, winter's coming, winter's coming, meaning financial and emotional winter, but primarily financial winter. So everything is cyclical, the economy doing very well, longest bull market in history. So it's got to go down at some point. And he would bring in guests like Paul Tudor Jones and Ray Dalio and, Danny Meyer, Howard Marks, Sarah Blakely, et cetera, very successful people, both in the finance world, but also in other industries, that have thrived. And each of them had a different opinion, but everyone agreed that winter at some point, financial winter would come, but nobody knew when. And we surely did not think it would come in the form of a pandemic or something health related, right? So again, Q1 2020, I have this vision of putting together an extension, merging these two worlds, merging the worlds of access and excess, high net worth, ultra high net worth, jet set events and experiences with the personal development and fulfillment world, and primarily focusing on experiences. Now, as we're putting this plan together, March happens and, the bottom starts to fall out of things. And we're thinking, is this winter? Is this, that October snowstorm that comes out of nowhere and we're going to bounce back quickly? As April and May came and we realized that, this was something that was going to be around for a while, still not knowing how long, I quickly identified that 2020 was not going to be our best year, to say the least. And with that, I started to envision what's next. So things are going to come back. Even now, being in January 2021, we know that things are going to come back. We don't know when. We want to be prepared. And we also know that those who thrive the most during down times are those who are best prepared and best positioned. And a lot of that is mindset. So I was prepared that 2020 was kind of a wash for me in that business. And I looked at what value we could provide to our members, our clients, my peers, my friends, and how we can grow together. And so, the funding component, which I was, thinking, Tony's talking about winter's coming, winter's coming. I want to start this quote unquote winter is coming fund to be prepared when winter hits. So I planted those seeds and people were very receptive. However, I'm not a financial person. I know that. I'm not trying to be a financial person. No interest. I aligned with some of the best financial people in hedge funds and private equity, broker dealers, etc., who were going to be on my team as advisors, investors, and partners to, go into these projects that we're going into and these opportunities. Now, going through 2020, that was a big learning experience. Juggling a lot of things, making this happen. I had people that were ready to give me money and ready to, participate in the opportunities that we had, but I didn't take it. There was nothing, it was unclear of what we were going to do. So I took probably almost all of 2020 just to realign, recalibrate with the people that I wanted in my future. And I wanted in these experiences, in this community, in these funds that we were creating to succeed with, right? To win with, to celebrate with, to overcome challenges together. And by doing that, fast forward to now, we, I guess actually I'll talk about a couple things that we did to prove the concept in 2020. We made a couple investments into, one was a vaccine, which seems to be doing very well. I'm not a vaccine person personally. I did believe, and I do believe, in the team behind the vaccine that we invested in, and a lot of the people that were involved, right? They were people over profits, but still profit conscious, right? Someone could say, why would you invest in a company that's people over profit if you're putting your money there, right? But they're still profit conscious. So that's one thing that we're in that's seemingly going very well. That's, just my own money and my company, people that are together. That's not anyone outside. And then my partner and I raised a sizable amount of money for Kinergy, which is Julianne Hought's fitness platform. So we closed that December 31st, and that's going very, very well. So we proved the concept with those opportunities that I was given through some of the communities and mindsets that I'm a part of. And we're continuing to build this, a fund, syndicates of a fund, and pivot that way. And as I envision this, we're finalizing the plan that it's going to be almost the inverse of what I was envisioning last year, pre-pandemic. My vision last year was we're going to make this community, it's going to be experiential, travel, etc., and there's going to be an ancillary fund with opportunities. Now it's more to say we're building this community. There's going to be opportunities, which is the primary focus, and the concierge and the travel hospitality, supporting component is going to be ancillary, and that's going to be our X factor.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. So allocating resources, connecting with the right people, making those relationships, forming those connections really helped you through the year and realizing, okay, where are the opportunities here? I'm not going to sit here and be like, woe is me, right? What do we need to do to keep trucking forward? So what are some of the things that you did to sort of reallocate your resources other than what you just described?
So a couple of things. First, during the pandemic, to, take my mind off of what was going on, I started a philanthropic entity, and it was just based on GoFundMe, right? We raised some money, and we delivered meals to the hospitals, right? The frontline healthcare workers who were, there was so much uncertainty in what was happening, and it was happening so fast. They were forgetting to eat, right? And it's not, people even questioned me. Why are you raising money for people that are getting paid that can buy their own food? Those people obviously missed the point. It's not that they couldn't buy their own food. It's the fact that they were in emergency rooms for, 18 and 24-hour shifts, and they didn't have much downtime. They weren't thinking about food. Did you ever work so much that you're like, holy shit, I forgot to eat, right? And then you're like, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat now. And you can do that. These people had those, that 5 minutes that they're like, wow, I haven't eaten for the past 24 hours. By the time they ordered something and got food, there was no time to eat. So, that was a nice thing that we did that I guess helped me recalibrate, and it also helped me reconnect with a lot of people. So beyond that, I focused a lot of time on Zooms and masterminds and really taking an inventory of the people I was surrounding myself. You mentioned that whole woe is me attitude, and I'm not about that at all, no matter what. I focus on the good things. It doesn't mean that there's no challenges in my life, because there certainly are, personal, business, etc. I choose not to focus on them and not to give them attention, because if you give them attention, they're only going to grow. If you give attention to the opportunities and the good things and you focus on gratitude, that's what's going to grow in your life. And I learned that gradually, and I applied it, especially last year. So, throughout the second quarter of last year and the second half of last year, I really was mindful who I was spending time with. And a lot of the time I was spending was with, I mentioned Tony Robbins, and he has a platinum partnership. It's a membership group that I joined. And I was fortunate, he has a higher level called Lions, and I was fortunate to be invited into that group to participate and show value. So we had these masterminds that I was participating in, and we were just bouncing ideas off each other. It was an amazing support system through that community of Platinum Alliance. And, it became a family that we really spent a lot of time together, virtually and in person. We met up through various parts of the country and even in Mexico as well. And really helped each other get through those times. And one thing that became really, really prominent for me, it was, a principle from hearing from Tony himself, probably 20 times in 2 years, was my interpretation is this: don't focus on what you can do in 1 year, focus on what you can do in 10. And I think the exact words of the way he says it is people often overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10, right? So I made my own version of that works for me, that I share. The underlying principle of that, it's common sense, right? You can do more in more time, focus on the future. Me personally, in the businesses that I discussed earlier, very reactionary, right? I need this now, boom, boom, boom. I need this now. This is impossible, help me, etc. Those are the type of requests that I would get. And it was all about the now. It wasn't about the future. My mindset was, we'll figure out the future in the future. And by having all this time to think in 2020, I thought about, you know what? I helped a lot of people, experiences, wealth creation, deal flow, etc. But I forgot about myself. And I wanted to change that. So that was a very critical point for me in 2020, that I needed to, and I was going to focus more on myself, but not selfishly, right? I wanted to continue to create this community with opportunities and experiences and identify the people from both of those worlds that I mentioned earlier, that jet set elite world and the fulfillment personal development world. Identify people in both worlds that I wanted to run with, win with, celebrate with, overcome challenges together. And that's where we're at now.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So when those challenges started to seep into your head, right? And that doubt starts to try to creep in, what was the one thing that you said to yourself that completely refocused you real time on the spot?
Keep going. It's always keep going. That's the simple version. Again, much of the training that I've had recently over the past few years is outcome based. So it's really focusing on the outcome. I've become big into quantum physics and manifestation, thought processes. Again, circling back to mindset, it's all related. Meditation, putting out intentions. So all of these things have been critical for me. That doubt is a killer, right? But the doubt is almost always self-imposed, right? We create these limitations for ourselves. We are our own biggest critics and biggest enemies if we allow that to happen. Now, I've seen you speaking, Clubhouse is a thing now, right? Like, for better or for worse, it's a great platform because there's a lot of great people on it, as long as you don't get caught up. And I've seen some people with voices that there's not really much credibility behind them, so we have to be careful of that. But in a lot of the people that we speak with, you and I've seen us in the same rooms, and I've seen us communicate with some really powerful people. So on that app, and also in the mastermind groups that I have, I'm sure that you have, the people that are either mentors to us or sometimes even mentees by us, we learn from them. And a lot of it keeps us going, right? It's a support system that we choose to be around these people who are either A, they've already done what we are looking to do, and we're looking for them to help us along the way, or B, the ones who are ambitious and focused and committed to doing what we've done and more, and want to run with us, and we're going to help them. So I think that's a great way to stay focused and constantly eliminate doubt, because doubt and fear, they're going to keep showing up no matter what. It's normal. That's a lot of it is because of our youth. A lot of it is because of our family, friends, teachers, the media, TV shows, the news, complacency, right? People are they're used to what they're comfortable with. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And that's where growth comes in. So by forcing yourself to grow and being disciplined and surrounding ourselves with the right people, that's how we can really continue to eliminate that doubt.
I love it. Okay, next question. We talked about this on Clubhouse, but my audience wasn't there. So, I want to ask you the question again. You said when the doubt creeps in, you refocus and say, keep going. Where did that drive come from?
I guess that drive overall has been a work in progress my whole life. I always strive for more, right? And as you know, I grew up in New Jersey. I live in Manhattan now. I grew up in New Jersey. As a child, I was always fascinated with the skyline in New York City and Manhattan, whether it was seeing it in person, driving with my family and seeing the skyline from some of the best vantage points in New Jersey, or whether it was seeing it on TV in, a show or a movie. I was always fascinated and enamored with Manhattan and the skyline in the city. And I guess I, at a very young age, made a promise to myself that's what I was going to do. Didn't know how. And figured it out along the way. So that's part of what keeps me going, is being here in New York, also traveling the world, and essentially building a business, building companies, building, philanthropic efforts that give me that ability to live here, to travel the world, to help others to realize their dreams. And, even the pandemic's a great thing for this, right? I have a friend who owns a hedge fund. They did very, very well in 2020. And while that's a great thing, he felt bad about it because a lot of people were not doing well. And, he told me that he spoke to his wife about it. And, he felt bad that they were doing so well when so many other people were not doing well. And she said, listen, you have to get that out of your mind. Take a step back. You've earned this. You're doing this ethically with integrity. You're not doing anything wrong. And she said something that, he shared with me, and it's directly aligned with my mindset. People like us who are going to do well, and we're going to fight no matter what. We're going to overcome challenges and obstacles and anything that's thrown at us. We have to continue to do that. And it's nothing to be ashamed of to do well. Being a small percentage, whatever that is, 5, 10, 20%, 30%, whatever the percentage is of people who are doing well, when there's a large percentage of people who are not doing well, that are not as prepared or positioned with the right mindset to do well. The reason is the people like us who do well in bad times then are able to help and uplift the others, to share by example, to lead by example, to show what we've done and to teach them what they can do. And not everyone's going to choose to do that, right? You're going to have the people that now, January 2021, are still bitching and complaining about March and April 2020. And okay, that's fine. If you want to go that route, that's not us. And that's why we're here. And that's why we're doing things. The ones that are still complaining, and you could say the pandemic, you could say even before that, same people, it's always their outlook to complain about something or to find the bad in something when the same occurrence, the same life opportunity, someone else is finding the good in it, right? And is running with that and striving and succeeding. So I focus very much on that, and I'm mindful about the people I surround myself with, and I'm mindful about the people I communicate with and the messages that they share and their outlook and their mindset, because it's contagious either way, bad or good, negative or positive, right? And I always want to stay in a positive. That's all part of my drive.
I love it, dude. I got to stop saying that. Love it. Love it. Love it. I'm catching myself saying that, but it's real. I mean, the stuff that you're saying is just resonating with me on so many different levels. So there's so many ways I want to take this conversation, but I think this is a great way to point it and start to wrap up a little bit. But you've been in business, 20 plus years now?
Yep.
Yeah. What's the one thing that you would attribute all of your success to?
If it was one thing, I think it all stems from my childhood. And I grew up, my grandparents, it's interesting because my grandparents were entrepreneurs. They owned restaurants and liquor stores. And when I was born, it was a liquor store, right? The restaurants were before me. When I was born, it was a liquor store that they owned, right? Small liquor store in New Jersey. And I was brought up around that liquor store. So I subconsciously learned a lot of things, right? In
like
bopping
what?
Around.
Like what?
So yeah, I'll definitely share those things. So in bopping around at a young age, I learned marketing, branding, psychology, social skills, probably before I could even talk, by seeing them and experiencing them. And then as I grew, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years old, I was around that environment, and I saw the different ways of interaction with the owners who were my grandparents and my family, and the customers, right? If someone came in and it was the neighborhood bum who came in at 10:01 when the store opened at 10 a.m. and bought a beer, right? A can of beer that was $1 at the time or whatever it was. And, that was one example. Then you had the person or couple that came in dressed nicely and bought, a nice bottle of wine or a bottle of champagne to celebrate an occasion. And the way they kept themselves, all of the psychology of that, I subconsciously learned. The other thing is there was a video game store that was 2 doors down from my grandparents' liquor store. And I befriended the owner of that store at an early age. And I learned from him. He and his friends, they had the nice cars. They read Rob Report. They read DuPont Registry. So naturally, I was interested in those things, right? They were things that were not common. that was, that was what success was, right? And that, they were entrepreneurs, and if they could do it, I wanted to learn how to do it. So those things, that's part of what drove me to continue to be an entrepreneur, to sell gum in grammar school, right? Because there was a demand for it, right? And to realize that if I bought a pack of gum for a quarter, right, like Wrigley's, whatever, I could sell them for 10 cents or a quarter eventually each and make some money. And then when there's more of a demand, I could buy the bulk pack at Costco or BJ's, and my cost went down and my profit went up, and so on and so on. So like learning those silly little things at an early age and then parlaying that into bigger things. And, when we met, it was in the nightclub and promotions world, right? When I started that, and you probably don't know this, but when I started that, I was in college. I wasn't interested in nightclubs at all. But one of my roommates was promoting a party, and he's like, hey, I have this box of flyers sitting in our living room in Queens at St. John's. I was like, give me some of those, I'll help you out. And he's like, oh, well, why don't I start your own list? And if you bring people, I'll pay you. Now, I'm 18-year-old broke college kid. I was like, that sounds awesome. So I did that. I brought people, but I would just observe. I would observe the people coming in. I would observe what people wanted. And that led to me rising up in that industry, how to be an integral part of the big events and big parties and control the room, how to do my own parties and events, and then eventually how to do smaller, more exclusive events and dinner parties and such. And then, like you said, working with more prominent people, hosting dinners, doing deals with these people, gaining these people as my clientele. And now, fast forward 20 years, now I'm doing deals with these people and I'm partnering with these people. And that's the next stage of my life. That, thank God I had those relationships and the level of rapport and mutual trust and respect in those relationships to go to some of my clients and say, hey, listen, tough year, as you know, because you're not traveling, we're not making money on that stuff. How can I get more of your, some of it's real estate, some of it's tech, some of it's space, some of it's medical, all these different things. And I'm very good at connecting the dots. So that's what drives me, connecting the dots, making things happen, and also doing quote unquote impossible. Overcoming those challenges really drives me.
Okay.
That's what keeps me going.
I love it, man. So there's two more things that I want to talk about. One is, sure, you mentioned this multiple times today in the conversation, and the word relationships, right? When I think of Nick, I think of the ultimate connector, the person that can introduce you to people that you may be able to help, or people that may be able to help you, right? So I wanted to know, because I struggle with this, man. I'm going to be honest with you. I was an only child growing up. I think I was, for many, many years, I held on to this belief that, be careful who you introduce people to, because they might be taken from you. I'll give you a quick example. So I used to skateboard in my early teens, and I connected with one of the, I think he's still pretty big in the skateboard industry now. But his name was Kerry Getz, and he lived in a little town in Pennsylvania, and this kid was good, man. And it was the story of like the ultimate athlete living in a small town, unfound, but wait until he gets in front of the right people. Like, we were teenagers, right? He's a couple years older than me, but we were teenagers, and he was so good. And it was only a matter of time until he was found, and then he kind of blew up in the industry. But all right, so that story's painted. So one weekend, I convinced my dad, let's bring Kerry down to New Jersey and let him stay with us for the week. And he came, and I introduced him to my buddies down here. And they weren't good people. My buddies were not good people. They just weren't. And they started telling Kerry like all these lies about me. And Kerry created this story in his head about me. And he completely like didn't look at me the same way. Right. But then we were young. There was no communication skills back then. Like, you know, when you hear something bad about somebody, you're like, I want out. I'm out. And you just sever the tie. Right. And I just never understood why my buddies, quote, would do that to me. And then what I find is like, now they're trying to reach out to him and bypass me. Right. And man, bro, this happened when I was like 14, 15 years old. And that shit stuck with me for a long time. And it made me be at arm's length a lot with people because I didn't want that to happen again, especially in my grown-up years, right? So obviously I get over that because I've dealt with those skeletons in the closet. Does it creep up sometimes? Absolutely. You know, absolutely. But my question to you is, now that you kind of know that backstory, right? How were you, like, what does it mean to create a sustainable, deep relationship with someone?
So first I'll say that your story resonates a lot. And I think that, I don't know, I feel that everyone has dealt with that in some capacity, in some way in their life, right? What you said, I've dealt with almost exactly the same thing, right? And it's many times, I don't know, people want what somebody else has. And like you said, your friends were, you said bad people. I use that term a lot, but who are we to judge, right? But
True.
They have different values than we do, right? So
that's better put.
Put it that
better
way,
put, Nick.
Right? Language is important. I've said the same things that you said, but I've been consciously working on better language, right? So
Excellent.
They have different values, right? And values have become very important to me. And to your question about relationships, this is critical. So I look at the values that are top values to me now over the past years, the past 3 to 5+ years. Gratitude is at the top of the list, right? For the amazing things that I have had, for, all the money that I've experienced in my life, regardless of how much or how little it's been, but also for the broke times, for the challenging times, for overcoming those times, and for learning lessons through those times, right? So gratitude is certainly one of my top values. Integrity, and to your point of your story, integrity is one of my top values. And it wasn't always. It's not to say it wasn't present. It's not to say it was the opposite of that. It just wasn't front of mind for me. And it certainly was not at the top of my value list, right? Part of that was because of an upbringing, because of certain friends, because of things that we experienced. And this is relevant to your story, and it's relevant to your question as well. Abundance is another thing, right? Focusing on abundance as opposed to lack. And, the growth mindset over the fixed mindset. I'll just throw in a book, that 2 books. One that really changed my life was Jack Canfield's Success Principles, which was incredible. That changed my life. And The Secret was the catalyst to that. Another book, Mindset by Carol Dweck. I really feel like that should be Common Core in schools, right? Instead of some of the other crap that, we're supposed to read when we're younger. I don't know the age that this book should be in curriculum, but it should be, because it negates a lot of things that we're taught as children from our parents, our teachers, our friends, TV, etc. That, money doesn't grow on trees, all these different things. This is life. This is the way it is. Deal with it and accept it. That's the fixed mindset. The growth mindset is, if you don't like something that's going on, no matter what it is, change the channel. You don't like the radio? You don't like the song? Change the station. You don't like the people you're around? You're not in the right group. And that's relevant to what you said. Now, moving forward to your question, those things have haunted me in the past because it's happened to me, what you said. And it's always been a voice in my ear, like, if you connect these people, if you do this and you do that, you have a chance of losing. That's always going to be the case, right? Comes down to value as well. Showing value. The more value you show, and I'm not the type of person that, everything and every connection that I've made, I say, hey, if you guys do this, I get that. I Some people are very good at that and only being transactional. There's a time and a place for that in certain deals to outline that. Yes, of course, but based on introductions, based on something like this, Henry, if someone sees me on here and somebody reaches out to me and, is interested in one of my businesses or some of the opportunities we have, and we do something, we don't have a deal, right? Like, we don't have a deal, period. However, if someone says to me, hey, I saw you on Henry's podcast, and that person becomes my next big client or investor or business partner, I don't forget those relationships because I want to, not because I have to. There's no obligation there. But part of it is what you said, what you experienced, and what I've experienced, that people don't always have the same values and don't always do the quote unquote right thing. Mm. I choose to do that, right? I choose to remember and honor introductions. And sometimes something good comes out of an introduction where there's not a financial gain, it's a relationship. So what? So you go to dinner together and you bring the other person in on it or something like that. Or maybe it is something that there is a big financial gain. And then you deal with it accordingly. And, it's case by case how that happens, right? So there is always that idea in my mind that, oh, this person can do that. It's happened to me. It's happened to me recently, right? Where I don't feel good about it, but also don't get stuck on it. Mm. It's easy to get stuck on it. So that's where mindset comes in again. I feel that the people that do that will dissipate and will step on their own feet and they'll end up screwing themselves, right? And the more value that we show in relationships, the more integrity that we show in relationships, that builds long-term trust, right? And if it's meant to be, it's going to be. If we're meant to be with somebody, work with somebody, etc., it's going to continue to be the case.
Mm. So good. So good.
So I live by that, and I share that, and I live by that. And if I ever catch myself not aligned with that, not only do I want to get back on track, but I encourage others, the people that are close to me, my friends, my family, my girlfriend, etc., to check me on that, to bring it not in a hostile way, but in a gentle, polite way to just create awareness, to say, hey, you speak about these things, but what you just did was not aligned with that. And maybe it's an old habit showing up again. It happens, but it's good to be aware of that, and it's good to have a support system of people around you. Unlike you said, your friends of the past, they were not serving you. If people don't serve us and have our best interests in mind, I have a soft spot still to help those people. And I give people second chances. And I've made the mistake of giving people additional chances just because, people are not always ready. And if they are, I want to be there. But quite frankly, we don't owe anybody anything. Mm. We don't, be a good person, and the right people are going to come into your life, into your world, into your businesses. And I've seen that more and more. And over the years, I've wondered, how did I get screwed over by this person? Why did I work with this person? Why did I give this person a chance? And I don't focus on that anymore. I focus on, wow, how did this other person come into my life? Randomly, like you said, you don't believe in coincidences. I don't either. I've done a lot of the spiritual work as well. Synchronicities, all day. Synchrodestiny, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but all day. I read about these things. I meditate about these things. I practice these things. I've changed old habits and old beliefs, and my life has changed because of that. And I want to share that with as many people as I can. Some people are ready, some people are not. But even the ones who are not, sometimes there's one idea or one principle that sticks with them, and days, weeks, months, years later, it flashes, the light bulb comes on, and it changes their life. And I've had people, first of all, I remember people telling me that in my youth, right? And I commend them and tell them that to this day, if I have, contact with them. But people have come back to me days, weeks, and months later and said, hey, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't get it when you said it, but now it makes so much sense. And I've done this and I've changed that. I just want to thank you. And quite frankly, there's no gain there necessarily besides that feels really good. That acknowledgement and that appreciation, that pushes us to continue to do the same thing and to be good people and to keep those values the positive values at the top, right?
Yeah, so good. So good. So good. Bro, we could talk for hours. And I said offline, I said, we got to keep this like 45 minutes because I know this could go 2 hours real quick.
I appreciate the time in this space. Really, I do. And I love these conversations. So I hope there's, one or a few people at least that get value out of this. And quite frankly, the more that I speak about these things, the more value that I get as well, right? The repetition is key, right? The practice over and over. It's like a sport. The more that you do something, the better you're going to be at it. The more it's going to come fluent like a language. So thank you for the space and the time. And like I said, I hope people get something out of this.
Yeah, even if it's one little thing, when I listen to podcasts like this, I'm like, man, what that person said right then and there, right? And it's like it's a 10-second clip. Like I was on Clubhouse this morning in a gym and somebody said something and I was like, bingo, right there. I'm taking that one today. Like that was a gift today, to run.
And it's all alignment, right?
It's all alignment.
It's all, that's not a coincidence. That's who you're aligning yourself with. And that's, you brought up Clubhouse again and it's very prominent to us now, right? I think it's here to stay. It's a blessing and a curse, right? We have to budget our time. We have to manage our time. Don't let it be a rabbit hole, right? Also, make sure, I've seen a lot of drama and nonsense on there, right? Make sure that you're in the right room. Make sure that we're in the right room with the right people. A lot of these people claim to be experts on things, and they're not, and they're spreading the wrong messages. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of amazing people. That's why I think that, as we curate, like my partner and I were speaking about this, we're curating rooms and we're being very careful of who to bring in as a moderator, who to bring in as speakers, who to give space, and growing it small. I don't care to have hundreds or thousands of people in the room to start. If it grows to that, cool. I don't care. I would rather it be 20, 30 people that are getting value from it, a few people that are speaking and sharing experiences like we have today and gaining value from it, who can relate to that, not someone who's there saying, add people, let's get 1,000 people in here, let's get this, let's get that. I made that mistake one time. It's quality over quantity.
Amen. So
I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, which leads me to the outro, really, to the outro. I want to share this with you guys because me and Nick go back, like I said earlier, 14 plus years at this point. When I was in the nightlife industry, designing club flyers for everybody.
By the way, not to make you feel old, but it's a lot longer than that.
That's true. That's true. Think about it. I was in the game a couple of years before, a few years before I actually started the business. Yeah. Joe, it was funny, just to shoot the shit a little bit. Who reached out recently and says, I got to get my branding in order? Joe Carollo.
Oh, no way. I love Joe. I speak to Joe often. He's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I love, and you can ask Joe this. I was helping Joe with some stuff recently over the summer, fall, whatever it was. And I'm happy to see him doing what he's doing, right? On the right path, on the right track, speaking about a lot of things that you and I are speaking about today. So that makes me really happy. He's a great person. He's overcome some challenges. And again, those are blessings. And I think the future is bright as well.
He used to come to my house, literally sit next to me as I designed the flyers. As much as I loved him, I hated that. It's like, right? It's like teaching him. It's like hiring a plumber, but looking over their shoulder and saying, "Oh, are you sure you're going to tighten it like that?" That was Joe. Right. But listen, it built relationship, like we talked about before. And one thing I love about Joe is like he kept it real. He kept it real. But the point that I wanted to make about you, which I really, really, when I think of Nick, I think of this, I think premium, I think next level, I think standing out from the crowd, I think, I could do better. I don't need to, I'm not going to be a sheep. I'm going to be a lion. I think leadership. I think outside the box when I think of your name.
I really appreciate those acknowledgments and compliments because it means a lot. And I do my best to keep myself and hold myself to a high standard So that acknowledgement really means a lot. So I appreciate it.
And the one thing that you're welcome. And the thing that really stood out was you could have done like everybody else. You could have ran with all the other promoters back then and just, crushed it and just made your money and did what you do like everybody else. But you said, no, I'm going to take it to the next level and I'm going to play at this altitude. And that's what I wish for my audience. That's what I wish for my clients. I want people to understand that they have true expertise. Some of us don't even know it. Like I didn't know it until I got coached up. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure Tony brought things out of you that you didn't see, right? And that leveled you up, right? And I think I want to surround myself. Well, I know, and I've been doing this for a while now, but like you mentioned before, when you surround yourself with high frequency people, it eventually creates that frequency inside of you. And I just want people that are listening and watching this to understand. And again, there's some people that love status quo and they just want to mix the paint and drink the beer and punch in and punch out. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not hating on you. Keep doing it because we need people like you for sure. Right?
100%. Totally agree.
But the folks that want and strive to set that bar higher every day, I hope that this conversation served you and I hope that it resonated with you, because if two kids from Jersey can do everything that we've done in our careers and get to this point in our lives, then anybody can. We both come from humble beginnings, but we envisioned it. We saw it and we went after it. And we did it and we will continue to do it. So I wanted to end the show on that note. But before we jet, Nick, where can people get into your atmosphere and learn more about you?
I think the best way is probably Instagram. My Instagram handle is @NickChampagne, and my current company Instagram handle, which will kind of paint a picture of what we've done in the past, is @Status Luxury Group. So it'll show some of the destinations. There's a transition happening from some of that stuff. So probably my personal @NickChampagne is the best, because it's current and I put some stuff up there photo wise, but stories and such. And then, the Clubhouse thing, for those that are on Clubhouse, join Henry, join me in some rooms. If, I've been doing a morning one that's based on intentions and incantations. I do it at 7:10 a.m. Eastern time on weekends. I'm going to stick with that for a while. I'm going to do it probably on weekends as well at 8:10 a.m. But it's gained some traction just in 3 days. And I don't care how many people come in there. I care that every person in there gains value and maybe shares an experience that the rest of the group learns from. So that's what's important to me. Again, @NickChampagne on Instagram. Love to hear some comments and feedback. And, if I can help in some way, happy to do so.
Nick, appreciate your time this morning. And bro, I love chatting with you, man. Once this stuff breaks, we got to go out for dinner. We'll bring the fam. And,
awesome.
And I look forward to building with you this year. One of my goals for 2021 is to build stronger relationships with the people in my life. And like I said before, bro, there's no coincidence that we reconnected,
I agree.
And
100%.
so,
and we'll do great things.
Yep.
It's a matter of when. I think the when is now. It's happening. This is a start.
That's it.
On that. Again, thanks for the space. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Stick around before I don't want you to jump after we jet, but there you have it, guys.
Cool.
Hope you got some value out of this. I sure as hell did. And, just to recap real quick, what Nick was able to do through this pandemic was build strong connections with people, look forward, continue to drive, continue to strive, look for the opportunities. And when the challenges were faced, when the doubt came in, it was, I'm not going to feed it. I'm going to starve it. And I'm going to keep it moving. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. Don't forget to leave a quick little review or drop some comments below, depending if you're watching this or listening to this. I love all of you guys, and I will catch you on the next episode real soon. Take care.
Hey everyone, this is Henry Kaminsky Jr. again, and really quick, I want to invite you to a one-on-one consult with me right now if you're looking for the clarity and focus you need to build your brand. Over the past 13 years, I've served hundreds of entrepreneurs that have great products but struggled tremendously with articulating its value to their ideal customers. You didn't get into business to just change a few lives, did you? Your ideal clients need you. And when your brand has precision-crafted messaging coupled with beautifully thoughtful design that sounds, looks, and feels like you, they'll know you're the perfect match for them. If this is something you're struggling with, what I want you to do right now is pause this audio and go visit www.uniquedesigns with a Z at the end, not an S, .net, and book your one-on-one consult call with me. Remember, the quality of your brand will determine the quality of your clients, and the quality of your clients will determine the quality of your life.